When you're standing in a garage or a small shop and you start thinking about what it really takes to press bearings, straighten bent brackets, or fit a stubborn bushing, the decision to invest in a hydraulic press feels a lot like buying a toolbox you'll never open. You worry about overpaying for a machine that sits idle or underpaying and ending up with a press that can't handle the job you need it for. That hesitation is real, and the value you get really hinges on how the press fits into the flow of your daily projects, not just the headline 20-ton rating. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. The AFF 20-ton hydraulic shop press tries to strike a middle ground between a benchtop press you might rent and a floor-standing unit that belongs in a professional machine shop. It's built around a dual-air motor pump, which promises faster press cycles than a single-motor setup. In practice, that means you're not watching the gauge needle creep up for a minute or two every time you need to compress a bearing race. The press reaches its set pressure in roughly half the time you'd expect from a comparable manual pump. For someone who does a batch of bearing replacements on a Saturday afternoon, that time saving adds up quickly. One of the most practical things about this model is the 7-position bed height adjustment. The bed can be raised or lowered in steps that line up with common workpiece sizes, from thin sheet metal that you'd press against a small plate, up to a half-inch thick block that needs more clearance. I've seen hobbyists trying to improvise height changes with wooden blocks or shims, and that can lead to inconsistent force distribution. With the AFF press, you simply turn a lever and lock the bed in the right spot, which reduces the guesswork and keeps the load centered. That consistency translates to less wear on the hydraulic cylinder and more reliable results when you're pulling a stuck gear onto a shaft. Safety is another area where the design makes a noticeable difference. The shatter-resistant polycarbonate shield sits over the ram and the work area, acting like a transparent guard. When you're pressing a metal component that could slip or fracture, that shield gives you a clear view while keeping debris away from your hands. It's not a replacement for proper gloves and eye protection, but it does add a layer of confidence for anyone who's ever been startled by a sudden snap of a metal part. The package also comes with a 10-piece pin and bearing press adapter set, plus a 2-piece press plate set. Those accessories save you a trip to the hardware store and let you start working on common automotive or small machinery jobs right out of the box. If you're a DIYer who already has a collection of pins and plates, you might find the extras redundant, but for someone building a press kit from scratch, they're a genuine value add. Now, let's talk about who should actually consider buying this press. If you're a hobbyist who regularly works on motorcycles, classic cars, or small engine rebuilds, the 20-ton capacity covers most of the bearing and bushing sizes you'll encounter. It's also a solid choice for a small welding shop that needs to form sheet metal or straighten warped brackets without investing in a multi-ton pneumatic system. The dual-air motor pump gives you faster cycle times, which matters when you're pulling a series of bearings for a brake overhaul or pressing a set of bushings for a vintage transmission. On the flip side, if your projects are limited to occasional light tasks like pressing a few small washers or tightening a few stubborn bolts, the press could feel like overkill. You'll pay for a machine that can generate far more force than you'll ever need, and the air motor system adds a layer of maintenance you might not want. Likewise, if you run a full-scale manufacturing operation that regularly handles heavy forgings or large-diameter shafts, a 20-ton press will hit its limit quickly. You'd be better off looking at a 40-ton or higher unit that can sustain higher loads without risking cylinder strain. What about the downsides? The first thing that shows up in real-world use is the air-powered pump's reliance on a steady supply of compressed air. If you don't already have an air compressor that can keep up with a dual-motor system, you'll need to add one, which bumps the total cost and introduces another piece of equipment that needs maintenance. I've seen owners who tried to run the press off a portable compressor and found the pressure drooping after a few cycles, which forced the ram to move slower and negated the speed advantage the dual motors claim. Another practical trade-off is the footprint of the unit. The base is sturdy, but it takes up a good amount of floor space, roughly a square meter. In a cramped garage, you might have to shuffle tools or sacrifice a workbench to make room. That's not a problem if you have a dedicated workshop, but it's a genuine consideration for anyone with limited square footage.